Hey everybody, it's the Professor, and once again, it's the one and only Blue Pill Professor, coming at you from the internet and talking to you about the things we really care about, namely, the nature of women, and what we are all going to do about it now that we have awoken from our long slumber.
Been dazed and confused for so long, it's not true. Wanted a woman, never bargained for you. Lots of people talking, few of them know. Soul of a woman was created below.
And welcome once again to my podcast. Today we're going to talk about, or rather continue the talk, about the phenomenon of female in-group preference, suggesting that in fact a woman's soul was created below. Or at least it seems that way to us. And last week we talked about the HMS Titanic and the gender disproportionate ratios of death. And we mentioned the more recent movie shooter case where several men covered up their girlfriends and were shot to death. So it's the same dynamic as it was during the time of the Titanic in 1912. And in some cases it's even worse, because the court system, I assure you, is stacked against men. And this is because, as we learned last week, because of the female in-group preference. The fact that in our species, we have had to favor females. Why? Because eggs are more valuable than sperm. One guy can impregnate 100 women. And so this preference is actually biologically modified into our species. It is a part of our DNA. It's who we are. We favor the egg bearer. And that's always been the case. But in the past, we had this little institution of the patriarchy, which meant rule of the fathers. And the patriarchy essentially prevented female dominance in all social relations. Guess what happened when the patriarchy was destroyed by feminism? Well, we get cases like the following. And I ask you to consider first the Susan Smith case. This is the famous woman, young woman, who drowned her two boys and then blamed it on an unnamed black man. Luckily, they never found the unnamed black man and came to realize that it was in fact Susan Smith who drowned her babies because her boyfriend did not want to be with a woman with kids. Yeah, her boyfriend. She was a fuck buddy and never even knew it. Well, Susan Smith, the double murderer, received the maximum mandatory 30 years with the possibility of parole in 2024. In other words, this woman, I believe, if I do the math right, will be 52 years old when she gets out of prison. And she's literally due to get out in 9 years. Meanwhile, we have Scott Peterson, not the cop, the other guy, Scott Peterson, who it was proved at trial was cheating on his wife. Was there proof of actual motive? No. Was there proof of an actual murder, that he actually murdered her? Answer, no. All that was proved was that he was cheating on her, and that was enough for Scott Peterson to get the death penalty. And in case you're wondering, Scott Peterson will not be out of prison in 2024 for allegedly killing his pregnant wife. And while I have no doubt the circumstantial evidence suggests he could be guilty of the crime, but I followed this case closely, folks, and the evidence did not prove beyond a reasonable doubt that this man murdered his wife, period. Read the transcripts if you don't believe me. But it didn't matter. He was cheating on her. They even had his girlfriend make recorded phone calls, being egged on by the police to get him to say things. And he never admitted. All he admitted, he lied constantly about his affairs. He was a cad of that. There is no doubt. But a murderer? Maybe. And guess what, folks? Maybe is apparently the standard we have now when a man is accused. And so I offer the continued examples of female in-group preference, female bias in the courts. Hell, just go to Facebook, and the female in favor bias is astounding. And so I suggest and offer into evidence the court system and the pernicious combination of the modern court system with the female in-group preference as evidence that a woman's soul was indeed created below, at least from our perspective. So this week, as promised, I will discuss the book by Robert Glover, No More Mr. Nice Guy. And again, this was a groundbreaking book that laid the groundwork for much of the later manosphere, and which was picked up on by Athol Kay in his writings, and also incorporated into our blog at Married Red Pill. And the very first question is, what is a nice guy? And Glover starts his book with the statement, 5 decades of dramatic social change and monumental shifts in traditional family have created a breed of men who have been conditioned to seek the approval of others. These are the nice guys, concerned about looking good and doing it right, making others happy. They avoid conflict and are especially concerned with pleasing women. They've been told and they believe that they are good, giving, and caring, and they will be happy, loved, and fulfilled if they behave that way. And then he says, sounds too good to be true? It is. Yes, it's too good to be true, because you're in the freaking matrix if you believe that. So let me broadcast it for all of you folks and all you nice guys. You will not be happy, loved, or fulfilled by being a nice guy and seeking the approval of women and depending on your wife for your validation. Full stop. And Glover describes these nice guy characteristics: caretaking, giving to get, fixing, keeping the peace, avoiding conflict, seeking approval, hiding mistakes. This giving to get is what we call a covert contract, and more on that in a minute. And all this keeping the peace, avoiding conflict is, frankly, guys, just being a pussy. Knock it the hell off. At least stop being a pussy. And the final one, hiding mistakes, is what we call not owning your shit. One of the things men do is they own their mistakes. They don't worry about them, they learn from them, and they're not afraid to acknowledge them. So the whole purpose of this book is to teach nice guys how to stop seeking approval and start getting what you need in your life. Because what Robert Glover doesn't point out in his book is that all of these behaviors described as nice guys are anti-seductive. They are disgusting, gross behaviors that do not, I repeat, do not moisten panties. And we already talked about what does, the alpha. And I hope you can see that the alpha is the precise opposite of the, quote, nice guy. Because the truth is, most nice guys are not all that nice. They are trying to manipulate women, while alphas are upfront with what they want out of women. Which do you suppose is more attractive? And when you look closer at what underlays these behaviors, you can see why they are anti-seductive. Because behind every nice guy is someone who was abandoned, or at least felt like he was abandoned, by an important woman in his life, usually his mother, or was made to feel extreme shame, in particular of the I'm only good enough and lovable when fill in the blank. Yeah, that kind of shaming, which we don't even think about. That's just normal, right? No, it's not. But it certainly seems to be normal in our society. And of course, the defining underlying characteristic of a nice guy is they had weak or absent fathers and insignificant male role models. Yeah, if you're seeing any of yourself in what I'm talking about, yeah, I would encourage you to go read On the Red Pill, The Misandry Bubble, and pick up some Esther Villar's book, The Manipulated Male, because our education system and our previously mentioned court system, which favors women and favors divorce and favors removing the men from their children's lives, have greatly encouraged the development of the nice guy syndrome. And as Robert Glover puts it, helpless, whiny, wimpy, and needy are not attractive on a man, but confidence and self-assurance are. And so his advice for nice guys in relationship problems is to back off. Don't smother her and give her room to come to you, which means you need to get busy with your own life. See how that works, guys? And get connected to other men. This is highly attractive to women despite their complaints. Playing football, going to football games, hunting, fishing, working on cars, guy stuff is all attractive to women. Don't let her tell you otherwise. So the bottom line, to recover, a nice guy has to stop being such a nice guy. He has to stop caring about women, caring about him. He has to stop basking in female validation. And you have to build a plan and forge a path of your own. Once again, the bottom line is stop being such a nice guy and start being an attractive guy who knows what he wants, who's the captain of his ship, and is the in-charge, attractive, masculine, the kind of guy who stands up for himself calmly and rationally. And he isn't an asshole. If his woman is being a bitch, he has no problem saying stop, knock it off. Or hey babe, take a chill pill. And you may recall from the segments on shit testing that this is also the way to pass a shit test. And essentially what we're talking about is standing up for yourself. You see, the problem is that nice guys don't stand up for themselves. And when you don't stand up for yourself, you don't make your woman comfortable and feel safe. So in the end, attempting to be a nice guy is anti-seductive and carries the exact opposite message that you want to carry as the man. A willingness to tolerate the intolerable from a woman will only give her license to act that way in the future. Nice guys are like the wimpy guy on the beach who lets the bully kick sand in their face and then acts surprised that their inaction and weakness does not earn them the approval of the women they are with. Well, perhaps you understand a little bit better when you look at it from that perspective. What nice guys don't understand is that in order to get their emotional needs met, and more to the point, in order to get the approval of women, you need to already have your own approval. And how do you know that something is intolerable? Something that requires your intervention and objection? Robert Glover offers the second date rule. That is to say, if this behavior that the woman engages in had occurred on the second date, would there have been a third date? If the answer is no, then it probably is something you need to refuse to put up with. Dude. Now, probably the most important concept in this book is the concept of covert contracts. And Robert Glover defines them that nice guys use covert contract. These are unconscious, unspoken agreements, and they are the primary way that nice guys interact with other people. And if you think about it, you will find that almost everything a nice guy does represents some manifestation of a covert contract. And I describe it in some of my posts as a tangled web of unspoken expectations and unmentioned obligations. The nice guy covert contract is, I will do this, fill in the blank, for you, so that, 2, you will do this for me. And, importantly, both of us act as if we have no awareness of this contract. And in fact, the other party often gets very angry when the other party refuses to meet their terms of the covert contract. The trick is, they didn't even know there was a contract. This is all unspoken. And an unspoken expectation is no expectation at all. It is as simple as the I love you, which is a sweet thing to say, but are you saying it simply to get her to say, I love you too, back? If so, then it's a covert contract. And if that is true even 1 part of 100, then it's 1 part of 100 covert contract. And so we find that covert contract are the primary paradigm. They're the way nice guys interact between them and the world. They are nice. They are attentive. They are sweet and they are kind, just like all the women in their life told them to be. And they expect to get laid because they act this way. Except nobody ever told them that acting this way is actually not attractive to women. So they go through life with their covert contract with the opposite sex unmet, which is once again why we call it unplugging, because it is a severe shock to break with the paradigm that you've always held. Just because you're a nice guy and you do what your wife wants does not obligate her to fuck you, and it does not obligate her to experience passion. And that, of course, is the process of seduction, which we talked about on earlier podcasts. So the solution to the covert contract is to bring your covert contract into the open. Yes, dear, I would love to rub your feet after the blowjob. And I know that sounds bizarre to some of you nice guys out there, but in most cases, your wife will be relieved that you're finally being honest. And that's the bottom line with nice guys. You need to be yourself. You need to know who you are. You need to have a frame. You need to have a vision and a plan for the future. You need to get your shit together and you need to own your shit. And guys, that's all we're really talking about when we say stop being a nice guy. Again, we're not suggesting turning into a psychotic ogre. But if you were a nice guy and you start making changes and your wife starts complaining that you're being selfish, that, folks, is the time to smile or smirk lightly, look her directly in the eye, and tell her good. So next week, I will attempt to do the Married Men Sex Life Primer in about 10 minutes, and I will not be able to do it justice. It is a remarkable piece of work by Ethel Kay, may peace be upon him, which incorporates No More Mr. Nice Guy and pickup artistry and seduction and a lot of other great stuff. So thank you very much for listening. Like, share, comment below, or click on the link of the first comment, and join the discussion over at Married Red Pill. And that music means my time is up. So as always, I leave you with the words and wisdom of the incomparable Robert Plant and Led Zeppelin.
But now's the time to look and look again at what you see. Is that the way it ought to stay?